we have
Let's get dangerous.
Oh yeah, we were getting dangerous behind the scenes here because part of what we got to talk to tonight, we was talking about some of the behind the scenes stuff. We was talking about Warner Brothers. Like, no, let's save a little bit for what we got going on here tonight. So, hello, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Spectrum. We are sans Cliff again. He is very, very busy.
He will be back with us next week.
Yes. Oh, yes. He will definitely be back next
time
week.
To catch. We are on day before Halloween.
Yes.
So he will. We can catch our. We should do something.
I don't celebrate Halloween.
Fine. I do. I might do.
I know that. That's why I don't stop you and Cliff. Because you never know. It's like y'all up there, like, well, we go and dress up. It's like, well, I come as angry black man.
I have to take a picture on my way home from the laundromat today. A woman on the other side of the street, the block that's before mine, her building, they dressed it up to make it look like. And at first I thought it was real because you know how when buildings have been closed for safety issues, they have all the tapes. And she had all the tapes and stuff up there. And then I noticed one of the signs and I realized this is a decoration.
Okay.
But, because it really looked good. And she was opening the gate. It's like, oh, your building is amazing. It looks great. And she was like, well, thank you. It's like, yes, okay. It was the bright light I was looking for. Because, in communities like ours, a lot of times, especially when things are on the downturn, people don't decorate for holidays like Halloween, Yuletide, and whatnot. So to see someone actually doing something in the spirit, and she's less than a block away, it's like, okay, I got to figure some way to get stuff out on out that front because I don't want her to be the only one saying I got a little spooky spirit here. It's like I see you. We're gonna bring that energy, and hopefully next year there'll be more energy. Oh, who knows? In a few years, maybe we can get back to letting the kids trick or treat.
There's a lot more stuff that has to happen.
I'm trying to be hopeful. Thank you for just crapping on my hopes. Next time we can put you in a stealth bomber and you can fly overhead, do the video thing.
Now you're making me think of the stupid movie about the guy riding on the bomb.
I will. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange Love, or How I Learned to Stop Something and Love the Bomb.
Right.
Yeah, that's Peter Sellers and that. Who was that guy? I don't think it was Tex Aubrey. I can't remember his name, but I know that scene is like anybody.
It's an iconic scene. It's just like when seen out of context, nobody understands what actually was happening. But when you understand it in its context, it's one of the most hilarious
sitting on him, twirling his hat. Like, yeah, okay. And then a minute later, he crashed into the White House. Yeah. Anyway, we were talking about what began our earlier conversation was that for those of you who don't know, Warner Brothers Studio is now going to be up for sale. And there have been people who have been like, "Oh, Disney can buy Warner's, and that way we can
Won't
combine
happen.
DC and Marvel." And as I was commenting on Joe, we did have laws in place that limited what movie studios could do, because at one point, Universal, you had to be one of the big studios, 20th Century Fox, Universal, MGM, primarily, or smaller subsidiaries of those studios, because those studios owned movie theaters and they owned the bigger movie theaters. So there was a monopoly, because there was a point where they were only showing their movies.
Mm-hmm.
And independent movie theaters, movie creators, some of them had to show their movies in burlesque houses or, porno places, because those were the only places they could show their stuff. Or they were stuck doing late night showings in smaller theaters, small neighborhood theaters. So they took, what was it, antitrust or whatever they called it?
Right, monopoly antitrust laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And said they didn't break the studios up, but they said you cannot, if you are making, you cannot have everything from the actual production to distribution to the place that you show. That's a monopoly. You are making it so anybody not operating at that particular level can't play. And that's not fair. So what happened is a lot of movie studios had to sell off the vast majority of their theaters. Now Disney has been slowly creeping in LA by buying theaters. The El Capitan on Hollywood Boulevard, across from the man's Chinese restaurant, I mean, man's Chinese theater, Disney bought that. And of course, it only shows stuff that Disney wants shown
Mm-hmm.
in there. But so they started picking, they were one of the first to start picking away at that, because they were like, well, we're not buying nationwide theaters. We're just buying this little theater across from the man's theater in Hollywood. So it's not like we're buying up all the theaters in LA. We're just buying this little theater. My understanding, though, is Disney has bought a few other theaters in a few other places. I haven't totally checked through it, though, but I know that one has long been a Disney stronghold, because we saw Toy Story there. We saw The Nightmare Before Christmas there. And I will say it was fun, because what they did is they bought they bought the theater and they bought the bank next door, so that whenever they had things like the first Toy Story, they turned the bank next door into a toy land. So you became a toy and you could go through things like the Army Man challenge, where you had to put those things in your feet, like the Army Man had the things that their feet were molded into. You had to put those on your feet and do the obstacle course, and then they had a little show with the pig and friends and a few other things, and it was fun. But in the back of my head, I'm going, oh, I see what you're doing here. You're making this one little toehold, you know, and eventually you're going to start slipping behind it. And of course, Disney got smart and realized, oh, TV, streaming services, they have pretty much bought out. They first went as an extra on Hulu, and now they've bought out Hulu, and they are, as of next year, shutting Hulu down.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be no more Hulu in 2026, which explains why the last time I tried to sign directly into Hulu, it wouldn't take my sign in. I can open up the Disney app, takes me in every time, no problem. Hulu, on the other hand, will not take my sign in if I try to go directly into Hulu. So all of the watch lists and stuff that I curated on Hulu, that's all gone. So what I have to do now is go in via Disney and recurate it from there.
But here's the key thing that most people don't realize. Disney owns a lot of different networks, a lot of them.
They also own a lot of creators that produce content for them, because Disney themselves, there's if you look on the Disney app, a lot of the content that's created on that app isn't Disney. It's, it's Marvel. It's, they've got now the Hulu library. There are independent creators and stuff that they have like the Chip and Dale Park Life cartoon that they occasionally do a few episodes of, and the Monster High movies. But
well, all of that was still their property here. But
yeah, but I'm saying
I want to go one step backwards here.
Okay.
Because when I go to one step backwards, we have to also think about what happened with the MCU universe with Sony. They could have technically outright bought Sony, but I believe that would have been the red flag that would have been like, no, you got to stop. It's a monopoly. But you have to think how they got the rights for Fantastic Four. They ended up buying, I forgot, New Line Cinema. New Line Cinema was owned by
New Line Cinema. Were the guys that was the house that Freddie built when they, following the first Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Mm-hmm. But they was associated with which major studio? What major studio had
they
that?
Were independent. They were big indie back then.
They were distributed by a bigger
Warner's. Let me explain.
Hey.
They were Warner's. They had a contract with Warner's for distribution. They took a big risk on Peter Jackson with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Warner's rode their butts the entire time, and then made over, $1 billion and went, oh, okay, that works. But what happened was, and you'd have thought, okay, New Line, the house that Freddie and Jason built, produced the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You'd have thought that would have set them up for life. But no, what happened? They did Snakes on the Plane and The Last Mimsy and a couple of other movies that weren't horrible movies. They just didn't perform like the Peter Jackson films. They also didn't cost anywhere like the Peter Jackson films.
And what properties did they own at that time?
They owned, now New Line, like I said, Freddie, Jason, all of those films belonged to New Line.
Oh, really? You forgot some other major ones. I believe Blade.
Was Blade New Line or Sony? I thought Blade was Sony.
Blade was New Line.
Okay.
Fantastic Four.
The first one with Yoan and those guys. Yeah. Yes. But what I'm saying is, Warner's, when those movies didn't perform, that's 3 movies didn't perform. Michael Line and his partner, the guys who created New Line and built it up to what it was, they fired them. They kicked them off the company, bought them out, and then fired half the crew, half that company's staff. They kicked them out of that company and just kind of made it a clearinghouse. But yeah, they then took ownership of everything that New Line had. They had to buy out the owners and then took ownership of everything.
Of the libraries and everything to get the rights that Marvel's originally sold to them back. That's kind of like the thing that was the red flag, because technically Disney at the time could have bought Sony Entertainment out, or at least the movie side of Sony Entertainment.
Yeah, but Warner's owned that stuff.
That's the reason why Disney can't buy Warner.
Yeah,
because if Disney bought Warner, even though they had that segue where they bought New Line, if they bought the rest of it.
No, Disney doesn't own New Line. Warner's owns New Line. Everything New Line now belongs to Warner.
You miss what I'm saying here. Disney bought the library rights.
No.
And intellectual properties for the Marvel properties from New Line.
Okay, they have the Marvel
they brought that property.
What I'm saying,
they don't own New Line. They don't own New Line. I'm not saying that, but they brought the intellectual property and those libraries from them.
But what I'm saying is also the time at which this all went down, the new NCU stuff had not come out. Because at that time we were dealing, what came out then besides what was going up against Lord of the Rings for the Harry Potter films. Because they were coming out at the same time. You know, and they were leapfrogging it. Lord of the Rings would come out first one year, followed by Harry Potter, and then the Harry Potter film would come out, followed by Lord of the Rings. It's like they were leapfrogging it. Because they were both Warner Brothers. Which is how they were leapfrogging it, because they were, at that point, Warner Brothers had two of the top grossing series. Disney at that time hadn't started on their Marvel. That had come after.
That is true.
They hadn't, what I'm saying is all the stuff that happened with Warner's and New Line at that time, Disney hadn't gotten involved at that point because they weren't they weren't part of that discussion. Now later, when they went to Feige, because Feige was the one, or whoever came before Feige was the one, and I think Stan Lee definitely had a hand in letting Sony and Warner's do those earlier movies. And they would have then gone after that, because we hadn't seen. I don't think we didn't get, was it Captain America, the First Avenger, hadn't come out until that was 10 years or so after that.
That wasn't the first movie. That wasn't the first Marvel Studios movie.
Which was the first?
Iron Man 1.
Iron Man hadn't come out yet, that either.
That's what I'm debating here, because
Iron Man hadn't come out at that time either. Those movies were running, and then the superhero films didn't come out until the first trilogy was done, and Harry Potter we were about halfway through the Harry Potter films.
I could have sworn that Iron Man came after Fellowship. It was right around the time between Fellowship and Two Towers, if I remember correctly.
No, the closest it would have been maybe Return of the King.
I'm just trying to find my DVD here for Iron Man. That's what I'm saying. It's like the timelines and everything, because see, Daredevil was Regency.
Mm-hmm.
And Daredevil, I'm trying to see what year.
We were getting the earlier Marvel failures, because we got Daredevil and then we got Elektra.
Elektra was a failure. Elektra was considered a failure.
Yeah, Daredevil
was like meh. It was like
it was okay, but it wasn't like, But what
box office wise, it wasn't like a true blockbuster. It did okay. It broke even.
Yeah.
Elektra was a failure because it didn't.
They lost money on Elektra.
Right.
And Garner was very upset because I think she had walked off the ABC series for Elektra.
No, walked off. You mean for what was the name? She was on the equivalent of Alias. Jennifer Garner was on Alias for ABC.
That's what I'm saying. Jennifer Garner was the one that played Elektra.
Right.
And she walked off Alias for Elektra.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was like I left a lucrative series because I was told this movie was going to put me on the next level, and
See,
that's not what
Ghost
happened.
Rider was Columbia,
Yeah,
which
because
was
that
Sony, which was Sony. So,
yeah,
Sony
Columbia.
had Ghost Rider. So Sony had Ghost Rider, Spider Man. I'm trying to figure out who else had what. I know the
Sony had Ghost Rider, Spider-Man. Didn't they? They did not have Blade. Sony didn't have Blade. No,
no,
Blade was independent.
I believe New Line had Blade.
Okay, because Blade was independent because yeah, he made it through Amon Ra after the first
Fox
one.
had all the X-Men, so they bought Fox. I remember they bought Fox completely out. They bought Fox out. 20th Century Fox. Disney bought 20th Century Fox completely out here.
Yeah, and they're not. They can't call. They don't call after. Was it 1999? They quit calling themselves 20th Century. They're just Fox.
Right.
Well, actually, now they're just FX.
Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to find my.
Yeah, because a lot of those years was them trying to find their footing in regards to, because outs the one Marvel label, well, the one Marvel title that was doing well was Blade. Everything else was kind of like, hit or miss. The first one did well, and then the second one would
Yep,
be
I am correct because I'm looking at Blade Trinity.
yes. Okay, so
And
Blade
right
came
there
out.
it says New Line.
Okay, so Blade was being New Line, but he also, because I think after the first Blade, he got Snipes got his own company, Amon Ra, involved.
That is true, but it was still being distributed by New Line.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find the actual. I don't want to do the whole Google thing. Well, I shouldn't say the Google thing and use the stupid AI for finding the year that Iron Man 1 happened. But that was technically the first Marvel Studios movie here.
Yeah, but I don't think that came out until after what? It couldn't have come out until after Two Towers. I just
would think
remember,
I think it was either
unless it
right
was a
around the
summer.
time that Two Towers came out because that was in the 2000s. It was in the 2000s.
Well,
And
then it
Iron
had to
Man was
come
in
out.
the 2000s.
It had to have come out in the summer because Two Towers, at the time in which they were going, Warner's was doing the flip flop between them and Harry Potter. They had the Christmas season. Those two movies were holding down the Christmas season. So if Iron Man came out, then it came out either midsummer or late fall.
Okay, I stand corrected that Fantastic Four was
With Johan Griffith.
I thought this was 20th Century Fox. This was Fox.
And that's the one with Johan Griffith. And the very young Chris Evans.
Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. Yep.
Yeah, because when he did Captain America, they were like, okay. Because after Johnny Storm, after the second movie did so poorly, they were like, okay, Chris Evans is never going to play a superhero again. And definitely not a Marvel one. And then, of course, he came out with Captain America, and suddenly, the fan reporters were like, well, Johnny Storm was a learning curve for him. It's like, okay, do whatever you have to do to make sure
there was a lot of hate for him at that time. And I was up there like, you know what? He didn't do a bad job, but he didn't do a good job.
He didn't do a great job, but I also think the age he was at when he did Johnny Storm, and the way studios play with you, especially young male actors, and a lot of times the whole thing about studios and agents, development execs, is I'm going to sprinkle stardust in your eyes while blowing smoke up your butt.
So Incredible Hulk, that was the second Hulk movie. That was 2008.
Okay.
So that will put it again. That will put it just around Two Towers. I want to say it'll be
because
right
those came
around
out.
Two Towers.
That would have been more like Return of the King. Hold on, give me a second because I've got my videos.
Okay.
I can give you the exact date.
And where's my Iron
The
Man?
screen's gonna go blank for a minute. Neither of us are gonna be at our chairs. Hold on.
Right.
Okay. YouTube is losing access to channel 7. Or whatever they was trying to tell me. Okay. I'm back first. Hello. And
find my Iron Man 1.
Okay. Return of the King. Is it on the bottom of this?
It's always the last.
Okay. 2000. What is that?
And it's metal case here.
Is that 2013?
2008.
No, I'm looking at Return of the King.
Uh-huh.
I pulled my DVDs out.
I was like, I have the box set of Lord of the Rings, and I just didn't think about pulling that out, to be quite honest with you here.
I pulled mine out.
Okay.
See, I got the pretty ones that are made to look like books.
Yeah, done by Paramount. So Iron Man 1, done by Paramount. And I believe it is 2008.
Okay. This is, hold on, I'm trying. They had it in the, on the bottom of the box, they have it in the Roman numerals, and my old brain isn't reading them correctly. So I'm trying to, okay. Now, here is a $10 back, and this is the DVD, which came out about 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And the offer for the DVD gift set expired March 31st, 2005. This was 2003. Return of the King was 2003. Lord of the Rings was all set, done, and matched by the time Marvel movies started going. Well, Harry Potter.
I remember Fellowship came out after the
Fellowship was a one.
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, because Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out before first Fellowship.
Yes,
but and that was like 2000 2001. So yeah, that's about right.
Because the Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings movies were winter releases, and all of the superhero films that were coming out at that time were summer releases. So they didn't compete. People realized when Fellowship of the Ring did so well, it's like, okay, we're not, you got to be brave or crazy as all get out to put something out this November through January belongs to Warner's, because they had the Lord of the Rings trilogy and they had Harry Potter. And then after the Lord of the Rings trilogies, I think the next two Harry Potters came out in the winter, and then they started, because the last Harry Potter was released in the summer. So they started switching the release for the Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter was summer. I remember Harry Potter was more towards summer, except for
once they stopped competing with Lord of the Rings.
They became more November. Right around Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, Harry Potter was the new.
They started moving a little earlier into the year, because the Lord of the Rings was, they were picking up, because Harry Potter was picking up one group of younger nerds, and then Lord of the Rings was picking up. There were areas where those movies crossed, but they were kind of like feeding each other. and they were basically killing the box office. There were a lot of movies that didn't. I remember reading Entertainment, and a couple of people were like, "I have a movie I'm trying to get in the Oscars. I can't get it out in the theaters." So, you know, there it was making releases a little hard. But yeah, these were early 2000s.
Yeah, these were later 2000s. It's like
Yeah,
Iron Man was later 2000. I was
it
like,
is.
I know it's in the 2000s. It's like it can't be that late. It can't be that late in Lord of the Rings. But that's kind of right, because these movies did kind of sort of led into like Harry Potter towards the tail end.
Yeah,
After Iron Man 1, we had the Incredible Hulk,
we got
Fantastic
Hulk.
Four. All those movies
We
were
got
coming out right before
yeah.
the end of the summer season, before we got the next Harry Potter.
And then Marvel was like, well, you know what? We can go against the boy wizard. We'll get, let's do Captain America. And Marvel Feige and them started getting smart about, what movies we can put out now that we see now this part of the competition is gone. Boy Wizard's not going to hold it all himself.
Well,
And
that was the purpose of the Avengers, and how the Avengers came out the way that they did.
yeah, because they only had to fight Harry Potter. They didn't have to fight Harry Potter and Tolkien. So it became a little easier to get your movie out, especially as people realized that Harry Potter was beginning to phase out.
Mm-hmm.
Then Marvel was like, yeah, that's when we start rolling in and we can get heavier and getting more intense. So, because I think if both those movies had been later, it would have made it a lot harder for Marvel.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Daredevil was 2003, so this was before.
Daredevil was the summer before Return of the King came out. It came
Right.
out in the summer, so it didn't have to fight either
Fight
Harry Potter
directly, yes.
or those. And then Harry Potter, what was that? The third one, John knows them all by heart.
Yeah.
Sorcerer's
Ghost Rider was
Stone.
after.
Yeah.
Blade was definitely.
Because Peter Jackson did what they hadn't done before, which is he shot all three movies at once.
Mm-hmm.
They were shooting, and and he really pushed it, because they were in New Zealand, so it was harder to come out there and make trouble for him. Because usually if you've got somebody shooting on your soundstage, you just cut power.
So Blade 1 was definitely way before.
Yeah.
Was way before, because Blade Trinity was 2004. So this was the third movie.
Yeah.
So this would have came out right around Two Towers, 2004.
Two Towers. No, remember, Return of the King is 2003. Two Towers. Peter Jackson worked 3 years in those movies, but he was doing it before they released. Because of the way in which he worked, he was able to get them out one after the other at the last minute. But he had gotten all the principles done so that he could get out Fellowship. And then he knew the next year, Warner's was like, okay, by this time next year, Two Towers better be ready to go.
So he already shot. So he pretty much shot everything. It was just like, okay, I got a whole year to cut it up the way that I wanted to cut it up.
He had, along with himself, he had 3 or 4 other directors working on this movie at the same time doing different scenes. Because the Helm's Deep battle took 3 months just on its own. And he realized if he was going to get what he needed, he was going to need that much time. It's great to hear Viggo Mortensen talk about when they were going through Wellington, and he said, yeah, we were the crazy cockroach people, because we worked all night and then slept most of the day. So they didn't get out in the sun. And so he said, he had a lot of us pale, crazy cockroach people running around Wellington trying to get basic stuff done for our survival. But yeah, that's how he did it. He didn't just do one movie and then wait. He was all, by the time Fellowship released, he was already deep into finishing up principal photography for
Two Towers.
Two Towers, and then getting the editing, because they also, those sets and stuff, they invented the term bigatures because those sets were humongous. And so it took months to build these sets, not just digitally, but they physically built Treebeard. And so there is a lot that they had to work out. So about what, 6 months in, they were doing pickups and then editing. And Jackson was holding off his editing to the last minute because he loved driving, not so much New Line, but he loved pissing off the Warner Brothers people. So he would get his editing done like scant days before it had already been set to open in the theaters. So they couldn't make, because Warner Brothers, a lot of the big studios, you would put out your movie, you turn your movie in, and then they go, okay, now we're going to cut this scene, we want this scene longer. They would start re-editing your movie. He didn't want to do that. He had a specific vision based on, because they spent a lot of movie. They had Tolkien scholars and whatnot going over the script and going through things. So he knew the movie he wanted to shoot. And even though he would have 3 or 4 other people directing, they were always in contact. Yo, Peter, this happening, and then you had Sir Christopher Lee, who was their top Tolkien scholar. And if Peter would get something wrong, he'd be there with his book. Yeah.
Right. You messed up.
And then after Sir Christopher died, they then had Sir Ian McKellen took on that role. But they were always going through trying to make sure that it had as much of a feel of what Tolkien was going for than they could. So yeah, they were, by the time Two Towers got out, they were trying to get all the principal photography on Return of the King done. And then because
I knew by the time Two Towers was out, they was already like midway through the filming. They was almost completely done filming.
Well, they had
Return of the King.
But understand, just like Two Towers, Return of the King splits off into 3 different stories, because you have first, what I said, you have Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. And then you have Pippin and Minas Tirith. And you have Merry with the Rohan. So you have 3 different stories that all then have to come together. So, and then within those stories, you also had minor stories. 4, because you also had Gollum, Sam, and Frodo in Mordor. So you had 4 stories going on in this one film. So and like I said, they would have meetings early in the morning, late at night, sitting down with his team going, what have you done? What has to, this is where we are, and this is where we should be done in the story. That means today, this scene has to get done. And then they would all go off to their location and shoot those scenes, because otherwise they wouldn't have got it done, especially Gollum. Gollum, that mocap to that degree had not been done before. They were creating that technology and refining it as they were getting the film done. So, the fact that he managed to stay on it and didn't end up divorcing, and his wife didn't divorce him, he didn't end up snorting coke forever in a day or whatnot. They just, and people just sat there and looked at him and like, this is the guy that made Brain Dead? It's like, yeah. And you'd have known that if you saw Heavenly Creatures. If you'd have just watched Heavenly Creatures, you could have seen that, yeah, he was capable of this, because I watched Heavenly Creatures. And then I watched the one he did with Michael J. Fox about the ghosts, which I can never remember the title of that one.
I don't remember that one either. But
It
all this goes back into the point of why Disney cannot buy Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers is way too big. And that kind of ties into like our one of our topics for tonight, which is dealing with SWAT Cats, because SWAT Cats is technically up under Warner Brothers because of Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Hello.
And the reason why is we're tying it back to that topic here is mainly because as I was doing my homework to report to everybody about SWAT Cats, because like I said, we were going through like a lot of the old Hanna-Barbera adventure cartoons and everything. And this one, I believe a lot of people slept on, because I knew it was only 2 seasons. They only did this cartoon for 2 seasons. But I forgot the real reason why it only went 2 seasons. And when I did my homework, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. Now, this was during a time where our good buddy Ted Turner bought the Hanna-Barbera library and had a good, if I could say, good name with Warner Brothers. Now, mind you, when he bought all of this stuff and was coming up with Cartoon Network and was setting things up with Warner Brothers and everything to keep a lot of the franchises going, the legislation for here in the United States changed. The grace period for children's television changed, especially dealing with cartoons. And one of those characteristic criteria was about educational value and not being solely out there to market toys or to market, one particular illicit, type of marketing solely for kids here. It has to have some type of educational value. It has to bring something to the table where beyond just, the flash, the violence, and all the other stuff that's normal. So I'm up here looking at, going back through like the actual act that was passed in the U.S. Congress and everything. I was like, man, I'm glad that this wasn't done back in the days of old school Tom and Jerry and all this other stuff, because we wouldn't have no cartoons.
I was gonna say, Tom and Jerry wasn't even like, as we said, Tom and Jerry was never made for kids, just like the old
Tom and Jerry, Popeye, Woody Woodpecker.
None of that. Coco the Clown, the early Bugs Bunnies,
Betty Boop.
None of that was made with kids.
And a lot of the Hanna-Barbera classics. Flintstones, Jetsons. We wouldn't have none of those.
The Huddles, remember the Huddles? There's a family down the street, the Huddles, the McCoys live right next door, and they were football players. Mm-hmm. And that was on prime time, because I didn't know that the Flintstones.
Why did you bring up prime time? Because now you made me think about the sleeper show that nobody liked, but because it was ahead of its time, it was called Wait Till Your Father Gets
Home. Yes, wait until your father gets home. Oh, please. I remember that show, and those were the only 2 animated series that were on primetime, and it was interesting because they were both on
that wasn't true, because the Jetsons was the first primetime one.
By the time I was a child, they were no longer primetime shows. Right. Mm-hmm. They had been regulated to either right before the news on weekdays, or that because it used to be the after school shows, because you would get home from school and my babysitter was watching her stories. I was just lucky she liked Dark Shadows, but after that it was ABC had their afternoon movies at 3. And then what is it? They had Mike Douglas. Mike Douglas was lunch, and Dinah Shore had the afternoon show from 3 to, I think it was either 3 to 4, 4 to 5 or something.
So you never experienced Donahue.
Donahue was originally Donahue was morning, and then Oprah took his spot.
And he came on later. I remember
And he started coming on later, but by that time, I was in my late teens, early 20s. I'm talking about when I was a kid.
Okay.
In the 60s. In the 60s,
you have to be mindful. I remember 70s more so than the 60s.
In the 60s, I'm going into the Wayback Machine.
No. That's not Wayback Machine. I'm just saying, it's like, hey, you just only have a scant amount of years. It's not like you going back 30 years. It's like, no, I don't remember how it was back then because with Mike Douglas and everything, because I got this all Mike Douglas and stuff on reruns.
Yeah, but Mike Douglas had a talk show that was on.
I know that. But for Mike those Douglas, younger people that younger than us, it's a talk show.
ABC and NBC had soap operas. CBS had a few soap operas, but in the morning after the early morning school stuff, WGN and CBS had morning comedies. So if you depending, you would get like at one point the Lucy show was on in the morning. Beverly Hillbillies came on in the morning. Green Acres.
Reruns of Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, you got Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, Lucy show. Before Here's Lucy was on primetime on CBS. At one point, WGN had everything that the Desilu Library had was it Filmways? They got Filmways and the Desilu Library.
Yeah, that was during the time where they was showing a lot of Petticoat Junction and stuff.
Petticoat Junction, the Beverly Hillbillies, and Green Acres were Filmways. Because I remember the girl who played what is it? The sister, not Jethro's younger sister, and I can never remember her name. But she would be at the end going, "This was a Filmways presentation."
Oh, you're talking about Jed's daughter, Ellie Mae.
Ellie Mae. She would at the end of Beverly Hillbillies, it would be her doing it. This was a Filmways presentation, and to
think she got her start with Twilight Zone.
But so because it's like if we didn't have school because it was too cold to go to school, but we still had to go to the babysitters because my mom had to work. So I got to see what she was watching. So that's how I knew about those shows. Or if we had a late day at school or something like that, where I was sick, and I had to be there, that's how I know that lineup because, the more sophisticated shows like Dick Van Dyke, Make Room for Daddy.
That came later.
Yeah. Dick Van Dyke, was because Dick Van Dyke was originally shot in black and white. And as well as Make Room for Daddy. But those were
My Three
Sons. Those were all Desilu shows. At the time I was a kid, My Three Sons was still reruns were running on WGN, but they still had original episodes playing in prime time. So you still had My Three Sons. Bonanza ruled Sunday after what was his name? Ed Sullivan. After the Ed Sullivan show went off, Bonanza. And you had Bonanza on NBC, you had FBI with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. on ABC. How I know all this. And the only thing that was able to go against Sullivan was people who didn't want to watch Sullivan were watching Disney. because Disney had the news went off at 6 or something on Sundays,
Right, and you had the
Disney,
wonderful,
you
you had
had
the
the
wonderful,
Wonderful World of Disney.
wonderful world, magical world, whatever fits that time frame, because
Yeah,
they
they
interchange
kept
either the
changing it,
magical world of Disney or the wonderful world of Disney.
because the what is it, the Mickey Mouse Club, we got reruns of the 50s Mickey Mouse Club in the afternoons on WGN for a while. So that's why I knew.
That's before they went to the new Mickey Mouse Club in the 80s.
Yeah, but
Because
in the 60s,
because we had Blair Warner, aka Lisa Welcher, as one of the main cast members. I forgot, there was a whole bunch of famous people that eventually got in bigger TV shows later on in the new Mickey Mouse Club in the 80s.
well, it was kind of the same. It was a different beat in regards to music, but it was kind of that same formula, because they groomed a lot of their young stars. People forget Kurt Russell technically wasn't in the Mickey Mouse Club, but he did do some of the little, because Mickey Mouse Club was split into 3 sections. You had the kids and their performances. You had shows that they put on as part of the Mickey Mouse Club, and then you had the cartoons. Annette was one of the original Mickey Mouse kids, but she was also on one of those little shows that they would put on, the little episodics that they had. She was actually in one of the episodics. So, and then of course she went on to do the Beach Blanket films.
Right.
And I got into Annette because of the Beach Blanket films, because ABC would run those beach blanket films and the Gidget films to death.
Oh, so you was a big fan of whatchamacallit, Sally Fields?
No, Sally Fields was not the cinematic Gidget. Sally Fields was Gidget on the TV show. The Gidget movies was a different girl.
I thought it was only one.
No.
Only one girl played a different Gidget. Played Gidget on the very first Gidget movie.
No, because Tony Darren was Moondoggy.
Right.
And it was not Sally Field playing. There were a couple of different. They always kept Moondoggy, but they switched out actresses to play Gidget. They had a couple of different actresses that played Gidget in the movies, but the movies did well enough that they put Sally Field on the show. And then after she aged out of Gidget, they later put her onto the Flying Nun,
which didn't make any sense.
Well,
I remember Flying Nun.
It was fun.
It was fun. It was very fun, but it still didn't make much sense.
It was fun. It was silly. And, it was a way of, it was interesting because the kids on my block who were Catholic were happy because it was something that portrayed Catholicism and something other than a dark and evil light.
I would never say it was dark and evil, but overly strict. It wasn't overly strict.
It's very overly strict, but what I'm saying is the portrayal of Catholicism, because there were other shows that later came on outside of the Mother-in-Laws, which was Barbara Eden, and I keep forgetting her name. She played the Italian. There were 2 women. One was an Italian.
Before or after Jeannie?
You mean I Dream of Gina? No, not Barbara Eden. Barbara Gordon. Sorry, Barbara Gordon. There were 2 actresses. One was Italian, the other was Jewish. And their kids met and fell in love. And then they were learning how to, because one was Jewish and the other one one was patrician and the other one was Italian Catholic. And they had to learn to kind of, and they were getting all these crazy, they had all these crazy adventures and stuff. It was a really hilarious, great show. But that show then led into Bridget Loves Bernie. which was, oh, okay, so you can show a patrician sort of Anglican type woman, you know, she's a Protestant. That's it. One was Protestant, one was Catholic. And then he said, hey, we can stretch that into Bridget Loves Bernie. He's, you know, she's Catholic and he's Jewish. Yaha. Right. That was when they were willing to experiment a little more,
to take more and more risk and everything to that magnitude.
Yeah, that was something I really liked, because the 50s was so experimental because so many people came from other media. You know, Burns and Allen got a TV show, and they had been from vaudeville
and radio.
Yeah. Lucy and Desi had been, they weren't movies. Vaudeville, but they were movies and radio, because Lucy had My Favorite Husband on the radio. And that's how the Lucy show came, because the studio was like, hey, that's a funny show. And they had the idea of saying, hey, we can do this as a TV show together. But that's when, you know, that was also when the studios were like, we don't know if that'll work. And they were like, tell you what, we're going to do a stage show and take it all across the country and show y'all that we can make this work, which is what they did. That's how they got I Love Lucy on TV, because they went around, they were doing Cuban Pete and all of those numbers that he did on the show. They were doing those numbers and bits and stuff.
On the radio, but that was
not on the radio. My Favorite Husband was the radio show. And that's where she and Desi got the idea to do I Love Lucy. But the TV execs didn't think it was going to work on TV. So they said, we'll show you. They booked theaters all across the country and took their show on the road to live audiences. They clocked how many people paid to come. They asked people questions on the way out to get opinions and whatnot, and took that to the studios and said, we know what we're doing. And then they got I Love Lucy.
Well, I was trying to slow you down for 1 second here, because I was trying to place the timeline back in my head as far as this was before, after Skelton's intervention with Lucy to get her firmly into comedy.
This was after Skelton, because she had done more dramatic stuff, cinematic.
A lot more dramatic stuff before she started popping off with Three Stooges.
Got up and said, you know, you have a gift for comedy and you should be doing that. But she didn't think she could. And then he kind of shepherded her through, you know, and it was kind of like what she then did to Carol Burnett, because people forget. She featured Carol Burnett on Here's Lucy. She had Carol Burnett guest star on several Here's Lucy to help get her started. And so, you know, and she did a lot of that for people who were up and coming, or people who were established but needed to make another transition. Mel Torme, you know, she had Mel Torme on there as a young songwriter. But it worked.
It worked. I'm just thinking about how she came into comedy, because if it wasn't for Skelton, because Skelton helped her develop the chops, and then got her with Mo, Larry, and Curly for those shorts, because she did. I didn't realize how many of those shorts that Lucy had did.
But that was early, because you got to admit, this was also in a time where they were doing those Ziegfeld Follies films. And she had become, in fact, several of those clips are now on YouTube. She had become a big enough name where she is prominently featured, because Ziegfeld Follies movies always has those sections where they do the thing with all the girls and stuff.
Yeah, it's like she was no longer one of the background dancers. She was pushed more towards the front because she was a known name.
There's one where the women all dressed in black, they're supposed to be Panthers. She is the ringmaster. She's the lion tamer. They all Panthers, and she's doing the taming. And then there's another one where they're going up a cake, and she's at the top. So she had built a career where she already had arrived as an actress. She had gotten up and she was like, I want to expand. I want to do more. And then to get to have Skelton there going, well, there's more you can do. Have you considered this?
And she was like deers in the headlight when it first came to comedy. She was
yeah.
deers in the headlight at first.
But once she got it, and once she
got it real good.
Once she and Desi, because the thing is, they work together amazingly. They weren't a great married couple, but as a team working, they were unstoppable and unbeatable. And she learned enough from Desi so that she finally got to the point where she bought him out.
Mm-hmm.
She bought him out. And also because he was kind of at the point where he felt like he felt like his time had kind of passed him. Because when he came on the scene, he was like Xavier Cugat. They were Latin band leaders. He was younger and a little more handsome and whatnot. And they were,
but he didn't have the world stage like Cugat had, and I think that was the thing. And I think that would bid him. It's like he had television, but he didn't gain the world from television, and his era of music and everything got cut off.
But towards the 80s, towards the mid 70s to 80s, most of anybody who remembered anything about Cugat, other than a few of us, thought Coochie Coochie because he married Chato. And
that was later. That was like Charles was 70s. Like wife like number 3 or 4 by that time.
But what I'm saying, by that time, most of the people who remembered Cugat were dying out. Chato kept his memory alive because by then he had retired.
Mm-hmm.
So Chato was the one who was on Johnny Carson and Joey Bishop. People forget. Johnny Carson and Joey Bishop ruled late night way back then.
Well, people don't remember that. I remember Joey Bishop mainly. I'm going back to like the older film that I have seen of Joey Bishop, where he was a game show host.
Yeah,
Joey Bishop was back in the day where he was a comedian / game show host.
Well, he was always a comedic actor.
Mm-hmm.
He got the Joey Bishop show around the same time that Johnny Carson took over the Tonight Show and they moved to LA. He took over from Jack Parr. Jack Parr was the original Tonight Show host. He then took it after him and moved over to LA.
But even before the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson was the one that was hosting Do You Trust Your Wife?
Yes, but what I'm saying is,
show. And he was a very great comedian of that day, and was killing it as a game show host.
Yes, but there was a time in the early to mid 60s where they were neck and neck. Mm-hmm. Joey Bishop and Johnny Carson kind of ruled the show. The airwaves starting at 10:30. That was their time. Joey Bishop shot, I think, in New York. Johnny Carson was in LA.
Yep.
And Joey would do things like the way he started his show all the time. He would pick somebody out of the audience because they both had theme songs, and he would pick someone out of the audience, and they would say, "Now it's time for," and then they would have somebody sing "Joey, Joey, Joey," and he would come out and do his thing. Thing is though, because Carson was in Hollywood and a lot of people were living there, he was getting the movie and the TV people.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop was getting a lot of the theater people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more intellectual, where Carson was more funny. You don't have to think that hard about it. And in the end, Carson was ruling late night. I'm trying to remember his name. There was a guy. In fact, he was involved in helping with Watergate. He actually interviewed Nixon. Not David Frost, but Dick Cavett.
Okay, yeah.
Cavett and Frost were smart because they did their shows earlier.
Yeah, I'm about to say I thought Cabot was at late afternoon
Yeah, Cabot was late
or
afternoon.
dinner time. I would say dinner time, about 5 to 5 o'clock, 5, 6 o'clock time, something like that.
Cabot and Dick Frost was more like specials and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But David Frost was more specials than Dick Cabot, but Dick Cabot was more intellectual. The only
But
person
that
that
was also, I could say that for Mike Douglas.
Mike Douglas was kind of that in between. He was sort of in between Carson and Cabot because he would have people and he would have some serious conversations, but it was also a lot of yuckety yucks going on as well.
Mhm.
Whereas Cabot and Frost were both very
Dead
Cabot and
serious.
yeah,
Dead serious. Deadpan serious.
they were they were McLeod Lehrer before McNeil Lehrer on PBS, and you probably don't remember them. That's okay.
No, I know who. Again, that was the time that it's like Manila Lehrer Report. You come on right around dinner time. It's like if you miss regular local news, that's what you watch. Was McNeil Lehrer Report.
McNeil and Lehrer Report. So, but and I watched a lot of it because I spent a lot of time explaining stuff to my mom.
But getting back to the topic at hand, it's like we mentioned all of it. We mentioned all of this stuff because of what was going on with Warner Brothers at the time. Trust me, Warner Brothers had a lot of stuff, and we were talking about Hanna-Barbera, and we were talking about the early Hanna-Barbera stuff, and now we finally got to the 1990s.
We're finally in 19. Yeah, we didn't went way back. Come forward, and we've hit 1990.
At 93.
About 30 years.
You know, fast forward to, and this is what got us started. We was talking about Ted Turner. Ted Turner eventually bought the complete library of Hanna-Barbera at the time.
He also
he still had a good inroads to Warner Brothers at that point.
Yeah.
He started up Cartoon Network. So he's up there, was like, okay, I'm about to be the king of cartoons now. We got the Cartoon Network that's about to get ready to start up. We're going to put it on our cable system, on the Turner Broadcasting cable system and everything. We're going to have a good old time. And then, lo and behold, here comes the due date for the change over for children's programming. It did not affect the older stuff like the Flintstones and everything else. It was just for newer content that was coming out. It had to meet these new educational and all these other requirements here.
But you didn't see Flintstones you didn't see a lot of that older stuff all over the places we used to.
That is correct.
They started while the old stuff didn't have the same requirements, they started limiting where you could find it in the times of day or days of the week in which that stuff could be found. So while they didn't totally block it, they did squeeze it in. It was like they were slowly strangling it out.
Well, they were strangling it out on other people's networks because Cartoon Network came about.
Yeah.
Now that's the reason why I started with this, because SWAT Kats originally started off as a Cartoon Network exclusive until season 2. Season 2, WB brought it over to its Kids WB line, and because of that, it had to fall up under those rules. Now, mind you, when that legislation came out in the 1993 due date hit, Ted Turner took the initiative to be like, we're going to be self-governing. They controlled this series, SWAT Kats. And as a result of him being quote unquote serious about being self-governing, they stopped the series midway through the second season. So we really didn't get a true ending for SWAT Kats here.
Yeah.
We only got, I think it was like 23 episodes.
Well, there's a lot of shows that got shut down also. I think it's also why when Pinky and the Brain took off, they started showing it in the evenings.
Well, that was a move by Warner Brothers because Pinky and the Brain got a little bit more cerebral and a little bit more adult.
But what I'm saying is that was something out of Animaniacs
Mm-hmm.
that boom took off. And it's like, you know what? So that we don't get, because they had Hysteria, but even with Hysteria, they were running into issues because, and it upset me because they were doing amazing stuff. They had an episode that was just about philosophers. They
Mm-hmm.
had the Viking history one. They had a lot of great episodes that
But
they were funny and whatnot, but they also had the actual facts.
I'm going to put this in your ear of dealing with Pinky and the Brain. When they
Okay.
moved Pinky and the Brain to, I want to say Sunday nights
Yeah.
on the WB here, they put Pinky and the Brain at a time for family TV watching, because I remember that it was either 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. You had
At
Pinky
one
and the
point, it
Brain,
was
and then you know
earlier.
what show followed up after that?
I'm trying to remember.
It was the Oblongs. The Oblongs was definitely more adult than
Yeah.
Pinky and the Brain. So pretty much you had Pinky and the Brain, which was regular family television. It's like, okay, we're going to have the kids, have something for the kids and everything. So by the time, 8 o'clock rolls around, now we're going to get to our more adult stuff. And now you have the Oblongs, which was definitely a lot more adult humor, but it was kind of like one of those PG-13ish type safes. And because of that, Pinky and the Brain failed.
Yeah.
Because everybody was so used to it being the safe kids cartoon. Now they put them in prime time. Adults love Pinky and the Brain, but it followed up to
It wasn't like
it
you
got
could watch
followed by something
Pink.
that was just like too
No.
heavy.
Yeah. It wasn't like you had it wasn't like, okay, here's Pinky and the Brain. We're going to have a midpoint show to kind of go. We're going to start at this end of the spectrum. This midpoint show is going to get us into the next end of the spectrum, so the parents can start shushing the kids somewhere else if they want to watch the Oblongs. There was no sort of interim show in between there, and that's what they needed, which they didn't get.
See, now you're making me think about the original Fox Sunday Night, because people forgot about the original Fox Sunday Night. And the WB kind of tried to follow this up back in the 90s, even though it was the later 90s. This is what Fox did in the early onset of the 90s when they first, formed their fully fledged network.
Yes.
Fox Sunday Night started off with Family Double Dare. That was the family show that started off at about 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. You remember what came on at 7?
On Sundays?
Which kind of killed Family Double Dare?
Was that Space Above and Beyond?
No.
Okay. Trying to remember what night. I loved Space Above and Beyond, by the way. I really loved that. I was so upset when they cut that show off because I really
You
got
forgot.
into it.
I bet you forgot.
I'm old.
In Living Color.
Oh, that's right.
Family Double Dare, In Living Color, Tracy Ullman. And then you had two other shows that kind of rotated in. You had things,
and that was
like,
another thing where you had there was no transition in between.
Oh no,
them. You just had bam,
I take that back. It was a power thing. That Sunday night was powerful until you got to that 8:30 time slot, because you had In Living Color, followed by Tracy Ullman, followed by Married with Children, and then after that, it was like either something like Get a Life, Duet, Herman's Head, or something to that magnitude. Because that last spot was just like rotating in and out. Nothing could take that last spot. You had In Living Color that was doing gangbusters, and that's the reason why Family Double Dare died in that 6 o'clock spot.
Well, also because of the nature of the comedy of In Living Color. It was again a situation where there was no transition. It was like
it wasn't a gradual transition where you could say kids go to bed.
There should have been something to get you from, okay, there's this. Okay, this is a little sketchy, but not much. It's okay. It's still workable, but we know what's coming. It's just you went from point A, you went from 0 to 100 and past all the numbers in between. That makes it really hard as parents when you're trying to work out your TV viewing, especially if that show goes off at 8 or that show goes off at 7. Your kids don't go to bed before 9. Now you've got 2 hours. And this was, I think this
you have to think, A Living Color, which was out there comedy, to even more out there comedy with Tracy Ullman.
But the thing is but this was also at a time when you didn't have a lot of families that had 2 and 3 televisions.
Right.
So it was, okay, what do we do with the kids for the rest of the night? If we want to sit and watch this, then we can't. What are we going to do with the kids? And so it made it very uncomfortable when you were a parent, because you were trying to find shows that you could all watch and enjoy, without feeling like, if your kids didn't go down between 9 or 10, and it's like, well, we wanted this. And kids at that time, they could read. TV Guide was still out, so they knew what else was coming on. And
right,
there were
but it was one of those things where you changing the if you was that upset about the comedy that was coming on, you were forced to change the channel,
even though you really wanted to watch it, but because the kids were there, so I know a lot of parents, they just kind of kick the kids out, or they wouldn't let the kids watch it at all. They wouldn't let the kids watch anything, or they'd let them watch something sort of subpar and then kick them out so that they could then sit and enjoy what they wanted.
I remember the controversy of Married with Children in the very beginning.
I never got into that show, partly because I had kids, and I really did not like that relationship, that Bundy relationship, that whole family dynamic. I thought was crap. And I decided as a parent, I wasn't going to expose my family to it. I explained, it's like, no, I think their marriage is crap. I think they're crap as parents. And it doesn't reflect my values as a parent. So we're not going to, as a family, we're not going to watch this. But it's like, you know what? I pay the rent. I buy the food. I make the food. I clean the house.
You make the rules. Yeah, that I understood. But even as a teenager, I watched that show religiously because
kids.
I saw families like that. I had friends that had families like that.
Yeah, and and among teenagers, that was quite the show. But I just felt, okay, that other pot is different. Sorry, I just realized there's still, we still have, I was thinking we were done with chili enough, and we still have some. Yay, I have dinner. I just felt like I said, I didn't like the marriage. And I was a single mom. It's like, okay, would I want to be in that type of marriage? No. So we're not going to watch that because it doesn't reflect my values, because that's not the type of marriage I want. Kelly isn't the type of daughter I would want to raise. Nobody wants to raise their daughter to be the town slut. I'm sorry.
But that was the thing. They made her into that role, but she really wasn't that role. And that was the whole thing. It's like they played up the stereotype. And the first couple of seasons, when the Darcys first moved in, when it was Marcy, no, not when the Rhodes first moved in, that was when Marcy was married to Steve. You had that dichotomy of what a actual family should be versus what they were. And it was showing the difference between having that loving and caring family that Steve and Marcy was trying to be to
Where
what some of the reality for a lot of
what the
people were.
but the thing is, they also, in my opinion,
Mhm.
they also made Stephen Darcy look ridiculous.
Oh yes,
And
they made him.
that, and they were saying this is a type, it wasn't just this is how families are. This was what the family should be. And I just went, okay, you know what? I have the right to choose what I will and will not come into my brain and bug me.
Right.
So we're going to find other things. And luckily there were enough other things
Things during that
that
time in the late I would say late 80s, early 90s that you could do
that
whatever.
we could do. So it was like I didn't feel like, and I knew people who loved them. And it's like, you know what? Just like, I'm not losing anything. My world, guess what? I got up yesterday morning. I went to bed yesterday night. I got up this morning. My
Mhm.
world did not end because I didn't watch Married with Children. And it was just one of those shows, and we watched The Simpsons. We did watch The Simpsons
See,
for a
and
while. There was a time in which I just started losing interest in it. And we would only watch the Halloween specials. We would watch
that's another show that I
the
could.
Tree House of Horrors. But for the rest of it, there was a point where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just kind of done. We watched Tree House of Horrors, but I just couldn't be bothered.
Well,
And I knew people who loved The Simpsons, and there's that point where it's like, you know what? There's that point where you go, okay, I'm done, and you let it go.
see, I was one of those people. It's like it's not the same. See, I was there. I was there from the beginning, from Tracy Ullman, and seeing what they was doing in Tracy Ullman, and the parody that they was doing in Tracy Ullman to what we eventually got in the TV
What Groening
series.
then made it when he got the actual series between what they did on Tracy Ullman. I get that. I've seen those shorts on her show. I watched her show, so I got that. But and he then it went from little vignettes here and there on the show
Mhm.
to holy crap, now I got to fill a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big difference. That's a big difference. And not everybody pulls it off the exact same way to the exact same level of success, in my opinion.
Exactly. And I agree. I agree because that's the whole thing. Just like the whole Married with Children thing, I understood what they were satiring and what they were parodying at a teenage level. I have had friends and stuff that actually kind of sort of lived that way, but it was mocking them as opposed to anything else here. Because technically, Kelly wasn't really stupid. She wasn't stupid. She just, if anything, she was an idiot savant. They have actually proved that, but it was just easier for her to fill in that stereotypical mode of being, the teenage slut.
And I kind of felt
That's
sorry
like,
for her because it was really hard when that show ended for her to then transition into adulthood, because when she was trying to, the actress who played that character,
Christina Applegate, when she got more of the adult roles, she got acting chops. Don't get me wrong.
she had ability. But the thing is when she first left that show, everybody just wanted her to do an older version of Kelly Bundy. And she has talked about
That wouldn't have worked for her.
but I'm saying that for her in the beginning was really hard because there were roles that she was offered in bigger films that she had to walk away from. She said, it's a good thing I learned how to, save my money, because there were things where she would look at it and go, this is just Kelly Bundy, however many years older. I've done that.
Mhm.
And they were like, yeah, but that's what you're known for. And she had to go,
They're
okay.
like, no, she will always wanted something bigger and
She
better and
wanted
different.
something bigger, better, and different. But as often happens with child actors,
Mhm.
you know, Shirley Temple had that problem. She finally ended up quitting, as well as other young actresses when they got big as children.
Now you're making me think about Nikki Cox. who did the WB parody of Married with Children called Unhappily Ever After. Except she wasn't, she was supposed to be the Kelly Bundy type, but she wasn't slutty. She was ultra intelligent, and people couldn't get over on her. But yet she had, I was like, oh, I'm the sexy redhead that nobody can get over on. And eventually that role kind of played itself out. The show got canceled, and the very first thing that she got after that was the Norm Macdonald show, where she kind of played kind of like the similar archetype. You know, the sexy female that had intelligence, but yet nobody really saw her more than
she was a body. They didn't see the brain. And Christina Applegate, because she is, I've seen her in interviews. She's actually a very intelligent woman. But she talks about when she first left that show, it was hell because they just wanted to typecast her. The kid that played Bud even
David Faustino.
He ran into some similar stuff. What's her name who played the mom had run into some of that.
Katie Sagal did okay.
She had, I mean, but it also because she was older, she also had more contacts. So she was able to get on different shows. She went on people's shows. She sang and stuff like that. She was able to show a side of herself on those shows that was not Bundy. And
well, she had voice acting afterwards. Until we had things like Sons of Anarchy. People keep forgetting that she was the mom on Sons of Anarchy.
But how many years between Bundy and Anarchy before she was on camera? Because there are a lot of people who
it wasn't that
went into
long.
voice acting
for bit parts. It wasn't to take that long for bit parts, but I'm talking about for a full series.
That's what I'm saying. To get a full series, to get a prominent part. It's one thing to say, "Oh, we're going to put Katie Sagal in there on a 5-minute walk-in," you know, or she'll be in like every 6 episodes. We might pop her out. There's a big difference between that and she's back to playing a prominent leading character, someone who actually, have fun boys type of character. She played. In other words, she came back when people finally went, "Oh wait, she can play a character with."
Right, wit. She could play Gemma on Sons of Anarchy, or the new love interest to Dan Connor on The Connors. Stuff to that magnitude.
But it took a while for her to get there, is what I'm saying.
Well,
you get typecast in certain things, the more connected you are, and it's harder for women than it is men. Hollywood is littered with young women who just didn't make it. Like I said, I always go back to Shirley Temple. She was America's sweetheart. She was the little princess with her little red hair and the curls and everything. And Bojangles taught her how to dance. But as she started becoming a teenager and she wasn't the little moppet anymore, I think she finally in her 20s, she realized people either didn't want to let her grow up, or were pushing her in roles that, because she realized her image, she was trying to grow up, but she didn't want to. There were certain roles she didn't want to play, and then at a point they kind of just went, "Yeah, you're not that little moppet anymore, and we don't make those type of movies anymore. And this is more weighty than what you're capable of." And it's like, you don't know what I'm capable of. You're not even letting me audition for the movie. She finally, and she was lucky because she had parents who in part saved at least some of the money that she made.
Now you're making me think about Julie Garland now.
Judy,
and what happened to her, and then all the stuff that happened to her. How
she went through a lot of stuff. Yeah, but she was at least on screen allowed to transition into an adult. Shirley Temple was not. She had especially once Judy Garland started making movies with what's his face? She had Temple. One of the last ones she did was what, Flicka or something like that. With
But now you're making me think it's like I don't think the movie with Mickey Rooney with Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney started that whole phenomenon because again,
no, but I'm saying
she when she got older, that's when Hollywood started to push her out because she was no longer that teenage Bobby Soxer that most people wanted her to be.
They didn't want to see her grow up. But it was because and also because Rooney was growing up. Rooney had a short time in which, he wasn't getting jobs for a short time.
Right.
Because everybody wanted him to be Andy Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I can do more than this.
Even though I do like me a good Andy Hardy movie every once in a while.
Hey, one of the most endearing jokes is, my uncle's got a bomb. My uncle's got a barn we can use, and my mom will make the curtains. So that was all the point of, hey kids, let's put on the show. And then there was always someone who, their uncle or somebody had a barn they could use, and an aunt or somebody could make the curtains. And then you'd see the production. It's like, no, your aunt. Most of MGM's costume department to put this up. This is not your barn. But, they would do these lavish productions, but you were supposed to suspend your disbelief and go, yeah, this is being done inside an old barn or garage or something. You'd go, no, this is on a soundstage. But there's a point where he wanted to do more adult. But he did go through a time where he didn't work. I think there was a point where in his 30s up to about his 40s or so.
So I thought that's like he started back to work in his 50s.
Yeah, he started back in his 50s, but he had a long stretch where he did not work.
And after he got older, when he was like up in age, that's when it was like clockwork.
And there was Wilford Brimley was a younger actor who it looked like, Hollywood had left him by and then rediscovered him as older. There were a couple of couples who they started in the studio system and they would get bit parts here and there. But then as they got older, suddenly they were like, everybody wanted to hire them. And I can't remember. She outlived him. She was in Driving Miss Daisy. The woman who was, she and her husband.
Oh my goodness.
Were a team.
What's her name?
She and her husband were a team. They met on the
I was like, I see Dan Aykroyd. I see Morgan Freeman. What is her?
And she
I can't remember her name. I can't remember her name.
What happened was they both individually, they did a couple of they were big for a while, especially as a couple. And then they kind of got pushed aside. And at least in Hollywood, what a lot of people did was if you weren't acting, you could become an acting teacher. So I think they taught Jessica Tandy.
Yeah, there it is.
Jessica Tandy and her husband, they were doing theater. I think they were in New York for a while and went to other places and toured. And then I think, Batteries Not Required was the movie.
That's not included.
Batteries Not Included. But they started getting these movies where they were the older couple. And then he died.
Wait, why does the name make me think about On Golden Pond?
No, that was the Fondas. That was Henry Fonda, Jane Fonda, and Katharine Hepburn.
Okay, that was Hepburn. Okay.
That was Hepburn.
Okay.
Tandy and her husband started getting jobs again. He got sick. He died. But she then went on for at
No,
least
I'm trying to think
another.
what was the movie before Driving Miss Daisy, because she had a couple of movies before Driving
She
Miss
had
Daisy.
movies with her husband, and then he got sick. She got a couple of films on her own, but Driving Miss Daisy cemented her position in Hollywood as the go-to older actress. And then because it's like, well, dang, she can do it. And then from her, we got Olympia Dukakis. We got what?
All the stage actors coming back to Hollywood.
Yeah, we had a lot of stage actors who came into Hollywood and then for whatever reason said, oh, they're just not calling anymore, and went back to the stage. And then, Shirley MacLaine didn't get, she did, I think her last big movie for a while was Sweet Charity, was one of the last big movies she did. And then they quit calling her. And then she got Terms of Endearment.
Mm-hmm.
But it had been a good 20, 30 years between, but she had also, because it's like, you know what, you don't want me to do movies, I'll go back and do Broadway, I'll go do Vegas, I'll go do this,
all these other venues, and
a
it
lot
worked
of
out.
and a lot of them were doing those things. They were going and doing other things in other places, and then suddenly somebody go, oh, I need somebody to play this. Who do we know at this age is good? And then, some
Right.
agent would go, wait a minute, hello, I got the person.
Okay, we got to stay on topic here.
And we're off
I'm
topic.
looking at the
Sorry.
time. Like we already did an hour 36 minutes,
Holy
and we
moly,
still
we
have
never got
we still have your list of Halloween stuff that you want to talk about, but I still haven't finished the
Sorry.
main topic with SWAT cats here. It's like it seems like we get to the part where it's like,
And then I'm
Ted
sorry.
and Warner Brothers and everything, and then we go right back into the movies of Warner Brothers. It's like, okay,
Warner Brothers won't leave us alone. They're
yeah.
in our heads. They're in our heads, Joe.
So pretty much the whole thing about the new legislation in the United States forced a major change in cartoons, and Ted Turner, being the self discipline type things, canceled this show midway in the second season of it. So without further ado, because I don't want to get sidetracked again, we are going to take a look at the season 1 intro. This is the one that actually ran on Cartoon Network for the first season, and then we're going to take the look at how they changed the intro when it got syndicated for season 2 via Warner Brothers.
He looks like Smedley's evil twin.
No, he's not evil.
But that's just how he looks. Who needed Jurassic Park?
Well, that one cat that was holding up the timepiece, he can actually control time with that relic. He could bring anything forward and backwards in time.
He can also fly a jet. Or at least his friend can. You can see the anime influence in this.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of anime influence off this puppy. SWAT cats.
So that was the season 1. That was the season 1 intro, and I wanted you to pay close attention to what they showed here.
The dinosaur.
Season 1 kind of gave you a little bit more background on what was actually going on in the series, more than season 2, more than the season 2 intro.
Well, that gave me an idea of, what the tone, the characters,
Yes,
their
but it's
relationship. You get more of it tells you a story about what it is you're getting
about
ready
to
to
get
watch.
ready to watch, unlike season 2.
Oh no. It's not up there.
Oh, hold on. Let me go. I thought I had it up. I thought
No way.
no.
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
okay, here we go.
Okay, that didn't change.
Now, a lot of this stuff is due to some of the changes that was coming down the pike as far as U.S. legislation is concerned.
This feels a lot more Miami Vice.
There's Dark Cat and Dr. Viper,
Okay.
but
The
the
Radical
other one
Squadron.
told more of a story than anything else. And that to me, spoke more volumes about the care that they took
It's
before it got syndicated and eventually canned because of the legislation that came about here.
that, and the quality of the animation went down a bit as well. If you look at the
Actually,
if you look at the
it
animation in
went
the openings,
from being more US done than animated version, the anime. Because it went more anime like.
really, because it felt maybe because a lot of the anime I watched at that time, if you're thinking about well, I'm trying to think what would be around that time.
It would be about like uh Dragon Ball when it first, the original Dragon Ball series. Well, that's 70s, but when it finally came to the United States
When
and it
it
was
came
anime.
to the US.
Mhm.
But
Sailor Moon,
Sailor Moon. Um, we by then we had Akira.
right?
We had Ghost in the Shell.
Mhm. But that's getting to the more polished stuff here.
But what
We
I'm
talk,
saying
talk
is that
about Ghost in the Shell and Ninja
the
Scroll and
original is
Macross Plus and all
the
that.
opening of that is a little more cinematic, and the second one, my first thought was somebody tried to turn this into, the animated Miami Vice. It just kind of had that feel to it. And I was like, okay,
It didn't work.
you know, it just sort of like, okay, and I get it. You sometimes, and it could be changes in whoever the executive team.
Mhm.
Because in Hollywood, one of the things is the minute a new executive team shows up, they make changes because they feel they have to put their stamp on it, even though what is currently works. They're not happy unless they make it their show. There was a lot of waving back then, and so you would have something that worked, but it wasn't it you didn't it didn't have your stamp on it, and you were trying you had so many of these guys trying to outdo each other, trying to prove themselves,
Mhm.
and forgot the old addicts of if it ain't fixed, don't broke it, you know.
And with the intro didn't break it, but what I saw and what I experienced was because I saw this first run on Cartoon Network, this season one first run on Cartoon Network. When it finally came over to Kids WB, I was going like, why?
We didn't even I don't even think we watched that on Kids WB.
I was going on why, because again, the whole premise of the cartoon is the two main characters, the pilot and the weapons officer, T-Bone and Razor. They are former enforcers,
Okay.
You know, the city of Mega Cat City has a police outfit called the Enforcers.
Okay.
They were once part of the Enforcers, and they was kind of forced. They was busted down by the commander, and they was busted down to the commander where they were no longer in the pilot corps. They was forced to work out of a military junkyard.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why they was forced to work out of a military junkyard because they were forced to take the blame for their commander doing this one illegal move to try to apprehend Dark Cat. So when he did the illegal move, it forces their plane to crash into the headquarters. So they had to. So it's like the commander is like, you know what? It's your fault that this, that, and the other happened. It's like you got in my way, this, that, and the other. Now you got to pay for these damages. So I'm going to bust you down. Now you're going to go over here and work in this junkyard, pretty much, you know, sealing their career off.
Basically,
for being a part of the actual Enforcers pilot corps, the Enforcers pilot corps.
They were the low men on the totem pole, and he had diarrhea.
Yeah, pretty much. So what ends up happening is that it was a mixed blessing that they got that because they were, you know, mechanically inclined. So they built the jet from all the scrap that was in the military junkyard to build what is called the Turbocat. That's the plane that they was flying here.
Okay.
Not only that, they took all the junk that was there and built specialized weaponry for it.
Cool.
So the Enforcers have no clue of all the different weaponry and everything that the Turbocat
these guys have. Okay.
Furthermore,
because they don't have the specs.
They don't have the specs. Furthermore, technically they are deputized by the deputy mayor of the city
to keep the city safe. So which means the Enforcers don't have they have no control. They have no jurisdiction over them.
In the beginning, the Enforcers always tried to bring them in until the deputy mayor steps in
and says, "No, these guys.
No, you leave them. Let them be. Let them be and everything."
Okay.
Because
So
it's funny because the deputy mayor technically does not know who they are, even though she always goes to them to get her car fixed. It's like something's going wrong with the car. She goes like, "Okay, I'm about to go to the junkyard." This, that. It's like, hi, such and such. Hi, such and such. It's like, hey, deputy mayor. And both of them have a crush on her.
Oh no!
So it's kind of like one of those things. Like, oh, they don't. It's like she doesn't know that they're really the SWAT cats per se, but it's just like more along the lines like, okay, they have the secret identity type aspect of it, and this, that, and the other. And then what makes things worse, by the time we get to season 2, they introduced the commander's niece in this one. She's an enforcer.
Ah, okay.
And the commander's niece started to investigate what was going on, and she found out who the SWAT cats were. And she was like, "You guys are not guilty for this." It's like, yeah. It's like she was like, yeah. So she kind of like in on it. It's like, she's not going to tell the commander who they really are.
It sounded like it started with some great points, but like I said, as what happens when
it was too violent. It got canceled because it was way too violent.
Okay.
Because
you could see in the change of the tone of the opening, though, somebody came on board who, instead of leaving well enough alone, decided they were going to make it their thing. And
no, it was violent from the very beginning.
But I'm saying just the change in the way the show starts.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that someone has come in
and made it darker than what it was.
Working and decided because they got to put their stamp on it, because they're waving their little thing around, and then killed it. And
it was going to get killed by Ted Turner anyway.
Okay.
Because Ted Turner is like, oh no, I'm going to take a hard stance on that legislation.
But the thing is, which also makes me wonder if maybe whoever got it then got up and said, well, I'm going to make it darker because you're going to kill it anyway. Yep. Which it doesn't do the show any credit either way.
No,
it could have walked off the table on so that people would have remembered it as a great show.
Exactly.
Instead of, well, by the time it was over, I was kind of done with it anyway. That's sort of sad.
So, like you saw in the first one, because there's actual villains that was not shown in the intro. You saw the one cat that had the time article, and he was bringing stuff to the future. You saw Dark Cat that pretty much just up here really just trying to take over the whole city. You saw in the second one, in the second intro, you finally saw Dr. Viper, who pretty much was a rogue scientist that's trying to create all these mutant creatures to try to take over the city. But the saddest villains that's there, that I would say the most tragic, were the Mechanic Cats. And what they were was it's messed up, because the Mechanic Cats was originally regular people or cats, because it's anthropomorphic cats. They was originally regular cats that were bank robbers that end up getting locked up. They finally made their big escape and everything, and it was like, okay, we're about to get ready to plan this next heist and everything. They was in their rowboat. They was trying to get away to get to this one island, and the rowboat that they were in got capsized by this military science ship.
Wow.
The scientist that was on board saw everything that happened. He figured out technology to move their brain into robotic bodies.
So they were seriously injured where they were going to die. And so he's like, well, you know what? I can't
He
save
gave
your
him a second
bodies, but I
chance
can
at
save
life.
your brains.
Yeah, he gave him a second chance at life with these mechanical automaton bodies. And he figured out a way to graft skin and everything where they could, go back and live a normal life. But unbeknownst to him, he didn't realize that they were wanted criminals.
So
Because
he just
again,
made them even better
they were grateful
criminals.
that he kept them alive. He was grateful that they kept them alive. And on top of that, they was up here like, oh, you gave us these stronger bodies and everything to that magnitude, we're going, do you a solid, we're going to leave you alone, but we're going to follow our normal plan. So what did they do? They got their new bodies. They went back into bank robbery and everything. And after they saw that, oh, there's nobody really in the city that could truly stop us, they tried to take over the city. The SWAT cats eventually stopped them because their body had weakness to like electricity and heavy duty equipment. So it's not like, people can fist fight them. But if you had like a steamroller, they could be crushed, stuff like that. That's literally how violent it was. It's like sometimes for them to be beaten, they had to literally destroy their bodies and make their bodies explode and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
It was violent in that aspect, and that's the one reason why Ted Turner kiboshed it a lot here.
I would have liked it, but like I said, we were doing other things.
But the reason I say that they were more tragic is because there was one storyline where Dr. Viper, the cat that could control time, and Dark Cat got together and saying, okay, we're going to team up and we're going to take over the city. And they found out about the Mechanic Cats. So they went back to the doctor. They went back to the doctor that created them in the first place. And they forced him to make, well, actually, they didn't force him. They went into his laboratory, stole the Mechanic Cat's heads, which had their active brain still working.
Oh, and then
they built them new bodies.
Okay.
But when they built them the new bodies, they built a control mechanism on it, and they
would only do what they were told to do.
So that's why I say that it's like that, to me, they were more the tragic villains, because the doctor that made them, he's up here. It's like, we could, you can still have a chance. You can still be, rehabilitated. We could, I have made arrangements for you to have jobs and this, that, and the other, and you have a clean slate.
And nobody would know.
But nobody would know because, again, they're dead. Technically, they're considered dead.
They're destroyed. So, yeah, that is sad. That is sad because
it's like
to go straight. They would have had a new life. And these guys come in and go, no, we've decided we're going to make you do what we want you to do, whether you want to do it or not. So there. Yeah, that's tragic. That is sad, tragic.
I mean, it's like the doctor that saved him many times over. It's like he tried, but that last time it's like, yeah, when Dark Cat put, had that one device on, it's like, yeah, you must follow me, or else I hit this button and be like, kaboom, you're gone. You're gone right back. It's like, and this time I'm not certain if this time if it actually blows up their head, because if anything happens to their head, they're dead.
They're dead. Yeah, because the brains
but body wise, it's like you could destroy their bodies and everything, as long as their head is still alive, is still intact, they're still alive.
Okay. Well, I've got less than 5 minutes. I'm gonna.
No, you got more than 5 minutes. I'm not going to cut it off at 2 hours. So you got time.
Okay. Well, I also need to eat, and we have buyers coming to check out my building tomorrow. Okay. So I've got to be up early and make sure we're all ready for that. Anyway, spooky season is upon us. I am going to try to give you a rundown. Originally, this was going to be from under the sea to out there. And some of this falls into that, but a lot of it doesn't. So it's just stuff. But with the kiddies in mind, of course, there's the classic It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. If you don't want anything really scary and you just want a simple Halloween story that the kids can get into.
And Sally fun. Almost cussing out Linus.
Okay. Also, on Disney, because, Apple is holding this unless you can get the DVD for Great Pumpkin. You either have to go to Apple Plus or you have to go. But luckily, places like Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, Dollar General do tend to have it. You might even be able to find it at Target or Walmart. So, hopefully you should be able to find it. For the slightly older crew, there is Disney Plus's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Mr. Toad. It's 2 animated shorts that The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Ichabod Crane, is narrated by none other than Bing Crosby. So you've got the boom, 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 boom thing going, and it's a lot of great fun. Yeah, at the end it does get dark, but when I was a kid, as young as 7, I remember them showing this at my school as part of our assembly. So, at least you can show this for the 7-year-olds. For the younger kids, stick with Charlie Brown or Ruby Gloom. And we've talked about where you can find Ruby Gloom before. Now, for slightly older kids, anything R.L. Stine, Are You Afraid of the Dark? You can find that on, what is it? That one you should be able to find on Amazon. They've got at least 1 season, and that's good for your 10 and up crowd. Those are great fun stories. My boys love them coming up, especially my oldest. One thing I found that I thought was really interesting on Amazon, and most of this that I'm going to do now is Amazon. The late, great Sir Christopher Lee, not Sir Peter Cushing, did a show, 1 season, done in 1996, called 100 Years of Horror. He hosted that show. And basically, it's a series, it's a compendium series of horror, cinematic horror, from some of the earliest to what some of the latest at that time. If you've got somebody who's a horror buff and a bit of a historian, that's a great show to watch if you've got an Amazon account. Most of this you need an Amazon account for. Sorry, it's been a crazy week and I only had today to get stuff. So we're just doing Amazon. Those of us Penny Dreadful fans, and I'm talking the Victorian Penny Dreadful, which is the all those seasons. I think it's 3 seasons of that. are on Amazon, and that's the only Penny Dreadful seasons that I watch. Because we're also going to get Dracula, Dorian Gray, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein's creature, all living in the same, just living and doing their thing in the same area, and all interwoven, so it makes sense and it's a lot of fun. Also on Amazon, Tremors. What is it? It's a great horror film. It's a down below horror film. These weird worm creatures that are really eat people. They're big, and they can sense you through your vibrations in the ground. So if you're walking across the desert, they can sense you and come up and it was what a Kevin it made that film helped vitalize Kevin Bacon's career, because I really believe he actually got the Invisible Man because of some of the stuff he did with Tremors. And of course, Tremors then ended up becoming a series on the Sci-Fi Channel. But we're talking the movies. Hey guys. Hi, Leia. Hi, Beanie.
See, Tremors is what is the reason why Beetlejuice fears sandworms.
Yes. Another favorite of mine, The Howling. I love The Howling with D. Wallace Stone. It's on Amazon, and they listed it twice. One is Howling and one is The Howling. One is a different film, and it's like, I don't know, somebody at Amazon got titles screwed up, which is funny because there's a company in Hollywood when you're doing movies that you go to and say, hey, we want to do a movie with this title. And they can say, oh, wait, nope, that title's already been used for somebody else. So you don't make those mistakes. But what are you going to do? In classic, we're going to go. I'm sorry to the ghost of Mr. Karlov. I should have mentioned the Universal Frankenstein. I love that movie because it actually starts, and yes, the costumes are crap, and the period that they start in isn't probably not the correct one, but it starts with Mary Shelley and Byron and her husband and whatnot. They're all sitting together, and they start the movie with they've been telling stories, and it's like, oh, Mary, do you have a story? She goes, actually, and she starts the story, and we go into the movie. So it was great because it also, I didn't know about the book at that time because I was a kid watching on Creatures Features, and then I learned about the book. But it's a way in which they honor the source material to say, hey, this chick came up with this story, and even today, you can't do better. So, yay. Okay. From there is My Name is Bruce, which is a comedy horror film. Bruce Campbell plays himself. A bunch of crazy people come and thinking that he's like the character he plays in Evil Dead, ask him to come so that they can go hunt down these evil creatures and destroy them. Another great film he did was called Bubba Hotep. You got to look that one up. I couldn't find it. Last time I watched it, it was on Amazon. But Boba Hotep, it's Bruce Campbell in a senior's home, and there's monsters, and you just got to watch it to believe it, because it's Bruce friggin' Campbell, and he just makes it all fun. What can I say? I covered Are You Afraid of the Dark? And that's it. Sorry, it's been a crazy week.
Yeah,
I've had a crazy week, and what did she say?
She got boogies.
Oh, she got boogies.
Meaning that she's stuffed up.
oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry you got boogies. Having boogies is not fun. I've got boogies in my throat, so I kind of get that. But we're gonna shut down so that you can go and Hopefully your mommy will make you some lemon ginger tea or something that you can drink and chill. Shut up, dogs. Don't make me come turn you into Alpo.
Oh, I'm up here like, oh, I forgot she's right by the window. So yes, you could hear dogs.
They heard me.
Yeah, she said, I just woke up. I fell asleep on.
Oh, mommy. Oh, okay. Well, cuddle up. I listed some shows. Hopefully your mommy might. That's why we were late. Okay. Did you get my list of little kid stuff, Leia? Like Ichabod and Mr. Toad on Disney? That would be great for Beanie. Um, and of course the classic, Charlie Brown Christmas or Monster High. That's what I forgot. Monster High. If you are into the Monster High crew, if you want something where it's got monsters but it's not scary, go with. Oh yeah, Ichabod is cool. Ichabod and Mr. Crane are cool. Yeah, but if you want something where it's got monsters but it's not really scary, the Monster High. It's got music.
Hotel
Cliff,
Transylvania.
Hotel Transylvania, and Cliff, if you're watching, close your ears. K-pop Demon Hunters. Great music. A little spooky. Lots of fun. Dun dun dun.
I still refuse to watch it because everybody say it's a phenomenon. It's like, yeah.
It's fun.
Just like whatchamacallit was a phenomenon.
I'm not
Squid
saying
Game.
it's. I'm not saying
Squid
it's a
Game was supposed
phenomenon.
to be a phenomenon, but I
I
still don't like how it ended.
I never watched Squid Game because it was too much like those animes where people wake up and they've been switched to some planet or some town and it's deserted except for people. They have to fight and kill each other, and it's like, you know what? I'm over that. That really doesn't. There's not meant be. I'm just gonna let it go. But it's like if that's somebody else's things, you do you, boo. Um, but
No, that's just her. That's just her way to say for her to try to get my goat because I let other people enjoy stuff that they love. It's like you need to
I,
watch K-pop Demon Hunter. It's like no, I do not. It's like it's
I'm not
not in
gonna
my
say you need.
wheelhouse.
I'm not gonna say you need to watch it. I will say I enjoyed it. I will say it drove Cliff to madness because
Yeah,
I
you
was.
have to think about his household and what he has at his household, and that got to be like
I didn't think
24/7 dance party from now on.
I did not think it would go over that big. I figured they get a kick out of it, maybe watch it on a weekend and come up and watch it on another weekend. I did not know it was going to turn into where 30 viewings later he wanted to murder me. I didn't. I swear I did not.
Wait, you
Creature
like
of the
Black?
Black
Wait,
Lagoon?
wait, 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 wait. Black Lagoon to me is not a kids cartoon.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Creature of the
Rebby
Black
is not
Lagoon.
Rebby is not a true role model in that aspect here. However, Roberta is. I would say Roberta is a good role model, especially after all the stuff that she went through just to get the job to being kind of like a personal bodyguard.
Okay. And I have said, if you like anime horror, um, you can't beat Helsing. Helsing Ultimate to me. Um, go way back in time, Vampire Hunter D, Wicked City. There's a lot of good horror anime. It's just a matter of what are you into and how far down that rabbit hole you want to go. But it's out there. If you're curious, just you know where to find me. I'm on YouTube. I got a channel at Elaine Haygood. Just find me, hit me up if you need to. I will respond, post, and I will post back. It's not that hard. I can carry on the conversation. Hell, I take over this show almost every week. So, you know, but right now.
Now you know why my intro says what it says. I'm in control here until they decide to take over, and when they take over, there's no hope for me.
I am sorry. Well, I need to take something from my throat, and I've got to get up in the morning because I've got tour excuse me, property tours to manage for about 3 hours, and I'm gonna be really tired when we're done. So we love you. Thank you guys for watching. Whether you watch us live or you watch us later, doesn't matter. Give us a like, subscribe. Don't subscribe. Just give us a like, if nothing else. Leave us a note. Hey, I really like this. No, I didn't like this. Hey, you know. And if you have a problem with me, 1-800 hate that big old fat chick. Okay. Operators are standing by.
Oh wow, she's getting silly now. So yeah, she needs to eat. She needs to eat.
Otherwise, y'all take care. Behave
Or else
yourselves.
she gonna turn it to what's her name, the one that got all the lawsuits, Miss Cleo. Call me now.
No, we're not going to even go there. I'd be on here for another hour. Anyway, thank you. Like I said, you know how to reach us. If you want to go see what I'm doing, lenscaponline.com. You can find links to find me on Facebook. I am actually on book 2 of And the Coming of Nighttime. I've got 6 pages of the first scene penciled out. So hopefully, if you come to my Facebook page or in the next 2 weeks, check out my YouTube. There should be a video of where I am. Okay? Y'all take care. Love you to death.
All right. And that brings us to the point where we have to say this episode of Comic Book Spectrum is brought to you by Jeffrey Hayes and Plasma Fire Graphics. If you got that brand new novel or that graphic novel or that comic book that needs that awesome cover, give Jeffrey Hayes a call here. Why? Because this award-winning artist have done several covers that have brought people to the table to buy your products. If you don't believe me, take a gander at this.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
You've seen the covers now. Now go ahead and give Jeffrey Hayes a quick little message over there at plasmafiregraphics.com or hit him up on his Facebook group for Plasma Fire Graphics. As far as I'm concerned, I will be here Saturday for another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. What we're going to talk about, I don't really know. I mean, yeah, there are some things that kind of set me off this week, but I'm not trying to do that again. Last week had to be done, but this week I feel kind of vindicated because some of the videos that I watched here actually talked about a lot of the things that I was talking about as far as speculation is concerned and everything. And Parallax had actually, we talked about another one that I saw talking about the book that Jim Shooter did that was uncovered here, and it was up there like, yeah, Jim Shooter is right, but the person who presented the information wasn't, as if I would say, a great presenter of the issue here. It came off more of a fanboyish type deal instead of really delving into the issues that Jim Shooter actually was warning people about. But you know, we're going to let the chips fall what they may between now and Saturday here. So just stay tuned. It may be posted on this channel as far as the topic is concerned here. But we're going to be talking about some accountability. We got a few comic books that came in this week here. Notice I keep them covered up. I'm not going to show anything just as of yet here. And we're going to have a good old time this upcoming Saturday. So until then, or until next Thursday, where we talk about Thundar the Barbarian and a couple other things here. Live life, grow, and be well. And we are out of here. And unlike our founder here for Comic Book Spectrum, Brian K. Morris, I don't care if you wash your hands, but I do mean this. And that is never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. Catch you next week right here, same time, same channel for Comic Book Spectrum. And we're out.